Welcome back to Finding Common Ground with Heather and Steve. Today, we're going to be just the two of us, and we're going to give you kind of the inside scoop on some of the things that we've been up to and some of the things that are coming up, which are pretty exciting. So, Steve, this past weekend was a big deal. Scott and you were in Utica. We had one of our other guests that was from one of our shows, Alexandra. She came into town and she was the guest co-host. I was away out of town for a wedding, so I couldn't come, but I would love to hear how that went to start off the show.
Yes, shout out to Scott Fitzgerald at Rockbox Studios for coming out and doing this. I think sometimes when you go into some of these things, because I didn't even know how they're going to be set up, he's the professional, and we were able to get that done, and I think it's going to be, I think it went over really well. Alexander co-hosted as a guest because you were at your wedding, and I think she was a little nervous, but I think she did well. And I know that one thing she got out of it was that we are creating a strong advocate down the road in Alexandra for what we both do also. And I think she's going to be a big help down the road for her family and others in her community down there at Hyde Park. The event, we certainly wanted more attendance with it, if I want to be brutally honest with it. But this is one of the reasons why I'm so glad that Scott and Rockbox were there, is because we could record this and get this out there in a bigger segment and get it out there to a lot bigger audience. And I know they're thrilled with that part of it. I think it goes back to sometimes with the families, and so many families are overwhelmed and exhausted and tired. Heather, you know that sometimes that they can't get out, and when you have something to schedule all day, like a 9 to 3, and you have a single mom and your autistic child home, it's tough. So I think this is a great thing. I'm so glad that we did this recording, so that it'll help hit those families too. So.
Yeah. And I think it was really neat that Alexandra could do it. I was bummed when I couldn't go, but we started thinking about all the different people who've been on the show. And I agree with you. I think sometimes when you get that chance, it's like guest bartender, right? When you do like an event and you're like, who am I going to bring in? Who's going to spice things up? And she was the perfect choice in my eyes. She is newer to advocacy on a bigger level. And it just reminds me, like, when you first start out, you have your eyes on your kid or your kids, right? That's who your focus is. But then once you figure things out for them, it kind of opens things up and you realize I could help other people too. My perspective is, going to be useful for other people. So that's really neat. So we did the episode leading up to the event where we talked about pathways to success. We had some people that came in and talked about who was going to be there. And I think you're right. Parents want the resources, but sometimes they're exhausted. Sometimes they're overwhelmed. So it's nice that we were able to record parts of that. And I'm looking forward to watching it and seeing how it went. And it sounds like you guys had fun in Utica. There's a lot to do, right? A lot of I'm trying to think the Riggies and the moon pies and all that stuff, right?
Yes, she got a chance at the Riggies too, and she wants to come back just for that reason. This is going to be an annual event. I told Scott that they're going to do this annually, and we're going to improve on some different things. So Scott and I can talk, and you can talk. The three of us can talk down the road about maybe doing it. We'll probably have it there in the same spot, but maybe find a way to make it easier for all of us on how to do it. It was the first time. We didn't know. I'd been in the building before. It was in the church that that we're doing for the rec center and the housing, but we didn't have any idea about the power. I mean, they didn't even have a sound system. So we were starting from scratch. So kudos again to Scott for helping us at Rockbox. So I look forward to next year already.
That's cool. And if you're listening right now and you're thinking like, we do these kind of events in our hometown where we bring a whole bunch of resources together and guest speakers, we would love feedback from you too. Like, what makes it accessible? When I'm at Autism Up and we're doing events, we try to do them hybrid so that you can come in person or you could watch virtually. That's so difficult. I know the technology is getting there and maybe it's just what we have available to us right now. It feels like one audience or the other, like either the people in person or the people who are virtual, they don't get the whole experience. So I would love ideas on how to get more people involved, because there are days I can't leave my house just because of what's going on at home. So I think we all know that deep inside, but we hope when we plan an event, people will get out there. So maybe word of mouth, more people will show up next time.
Absolutely.
So
And
what else is going on?
yeah, we've both been really, really busy.
Yeah.
We're trying to do something a little bit differently. We're trying to get to give our audience the idea of who's coming next. And we've been able to land five hosts, or I'm sorry, five different individuals that are coming in to come on the podcast. I have a couple that are scheduled that are I have to wait for commitments for October 8th and 15th, but we have from there on, we have five in a row, and they
Mhm.
include, I can have this list right here. Shay Belsky, he is a self advocate, autism. He
Mhm.
literally just ran a marathon in the UK,
Oh,
and he's a
cool.
self advocate, autistic young man that took the autism and actually is now married. And it's a
Mhm.
pretty cool story. And he's coming on. And after that is Tim Goldstein. He's a guy that, and this is unusual, Heather, is he's was diagnosed at 54 years old as autistic,
Mhm.
and that's unusual at that late
Yeah.
age to do it. And in the trials and tribulations that it got him to up to age 54, realizing that something was wrong, and never knowing what it was until it was
Mhm.
actually diagnosed at that age. After that, is we have Phil Vitrano from Helpopedia. He is a doing a lot of work with disabilities and autism within the schools and the educational part of it, and that whole process. And it's hard for me to explain his whole process, but he has literally a system in place that he wants to talk about that will help the parents with disability, kids that are in school. We also have Sarah DeFazio, who Scott got a chance to meet also. She was one of the
Mhm.
speakers this past Saturday at the Pathways for Success event. And she's with NICE at the New York State Education Department. And she actually helps transition kids out of school. And once they get out of school, and it's probably pertinent to you, Heather, is once
Mhm.
they get
That's
out
what
of
I'm
school
thinking.
into the high school part of it, is now we have somebody coming in. She's going to talk about that transition piece to all the different things that are out there and the things that should be done and maybe aren't done pre that. That whole process of the transition thing. And she actually was scheduled to come on today. And she couldn't because she has to get permission from the bureaucracy of the New York State Education Department.
It's
So
really
she's,
hard if you work for New
yes,
York State, no matter how good of a person you are, whatever job title you have.
yeah.
They
She
really want
wanted
to
so
make
bad
sure
to
you
come
jump
on.
through all the hoops, right? So I get it.
Yeah, she said we were her first podcast. She's never done one, and she's a fantastic speaker. She's animated
Mhm.
in how her approach is. She doesn't stand behind the podium. Scott probably was following her with a camera because she's all over the place. But she's a pretty dynamic speaker, and I think she's going to be great. Yes, so Sarah DeFazio will be on November 19th. And we also have Samantha Harrison. She is on LinkedIn. She's also a mom. She's has a strong disability background. She's actually something new. It's called a disabilities strategist. She works with
Oh.
families and on the supports that they need, whether in home or school, and kind of a general all instead of one specific thing that somebody might key on that's in the
Mhm.
support part of it. She does kind of all of it, and she's got an interesting background. She actually has her own podcast also, and she was kind enough to put the bus initiative and dropped it everywhere on LinkedIn for us for that part of it. And so I'm going to probably use her again. She's got a lot of connections outside of with LinkedIn and some other things that we could probably use for some of the things that we're working on outside of the podcast, which is the website. Heather, do you want to talk about
Mhm.
that part?
Yeah. So we've mentioned a couple times when we first started, we knew what the idea was for the show. Like we were thinking of a show, basically that we get in the studio and we talk about topics that were important. And then we started putting those episodes onto Facebook and that page started to grow. And then we had some more interaction with people and we thought, this is kind of bigger than just the podcast. This is like a whole platform because then if you were in the paper for something that you did or there was a press conference for me, we just didn't have a place to have everything land and stay because I don't know how you guys feel about social media. Obviously, it's a great resource to connect, but you can lose things, like it scrolls by, you don't remember where it was. And so we thought we need a place where everything can live, one hub where we can put things. So we started that process with a fellow dad advocate. Chris Palega helped us out getting it all situated and making sure that we had the parts, the bones that we could build from. And it's exciting because now we have that going. The address for it is www.fcg for Finding Common Ground, fcgadvocacy.org. So we will include that obviously on all of our platforms so people can find us a little bit easier. And then let us know what you think, because this is a new endeavor for us. This is like the next step for our platform. And it was, just a little over a year ago that we got started. And I love hearing the people who are coming up and just thinking about the people who've been on. I mean, we've had some really amazing guests. We've talked about some really cutting edge things. And when you talked about transition, that is such a big thing in my life right now. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation. I would love to share a little bit about my story. I've talked about it vaguely, but the transition piece, because I think it's something that might resonate with people. Devin is my non-speaker, and she's 18, and she walked across the stage in June. And her brother, who's a similar age, did too. Now, he earned high school credits. He had an IEP, he has autism, but he earned high school credits and he's done. He leaves. But if you don't earn high school credits in the state of New York, then the Department of Ed is responsible for your programming until your 22nd birthday. That sounds like a wonderful thing. Like most parents would be like, great, the school bus is going to keep coming. They're going to, provide enriching opportunities for my loved one. And I had faith that it was all just going to kind of work out. I took the classes, I read the emails, I went to the meetings, and I realized quite honestly that for people like my daughter who are a little bit more complex, there's really not a lot of options and there's a lot of wait lists. And then you have to start to say, do I settle for A or do I push for B? And I think a lot of parents, whether you're in transition or other stages of your journey, will get that. I had such a negative relationship with my last school district that I really, 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 really tried to always be very understanding and accommodating with the district that we're at now because they've been so good to us. But they just didn't know exactly what to do with Devin this time around. They didn't have an ideal spot for her or placement, and they tweaked a couple things, made a little room for her at another local district. So part of her day is pretty good, but the other part of her day is really hard. And I just want to put it out there to people that when we think about transition, lots of schools get stuck in the idea that you had to train somebody to do a job. But when you think about that 18 to 22-year-old age range, some people are working, some people are training for a job, and others are exploring their interests. They're going to college and taking a class, or they're taking a gap year, or they're traveling. They're doing things like to give them experiences so they know what they want to do when they're older. Maybe they're taking a specific class that fills a gap for them, that they, a skill that they need before they can move on. But for some reason, if you're in the category that my daughter's in, they just assume you're going to do custodial work or you're going to do food prep. Those are like the two main default tracks that they're going to set you in. And for context, guys, my sweet girl is legally blind. She can use her vision, just not well. She has global motor delays. Things like blowing her nose. She's been working on that for 18 years. We still assist. Using utensils. All these things that are just smaller motor movements. So the first day of program, they brought her to a local college and she was super excited because she thought she was going to college. She thought she was going to take a college class and they handed her a broom. And I have to pause because I can't imagine how devastated she was. She had all these hopes and dreams, just like every other 18-year-old. And now she's being asked to do a completely motor-based task when that's her biggest area of disability. And it made me think the school district is not trying to be mean to Devin. they just don't know what to do. And they have this mindset that's kind of antiquated. And it's time for people like me and Steve and all you parents out there to teach them there's other ways to help our kids.
Yeah, look, I kind of wish that Sarah was coming on a little sooner.
Hmm.
That so you can have some of your questions answered, and she might have some knowledge of maybe how they could have done things a little differently, maybe.
And there's still time to
For
tweak
that.
it, right? Like we can
Yeah,
change as we go. I just know for Devin and her mental health, it's a really hard thing for me to make sense for her. Like, would anybody pick a job that their body can't do? Like, that'd be like telling me I had to tap dance every day for my money. Like, like, can't tap dance and nobody should ask me to. At least it'd be funny. This isn't funny for her. This is really embarrassing. She's in front of people who are her peers, age wise, who are going to college, the thing that she wants to do. So I guess I'm just throwing it out there today because you can get your GED during transition. You can take a college class. You can take a community class with a local provider. So as parents, we just need to be educated. So I'm really glad Sarah's coming on. Are there any hot topics that you think we should dive into today? I mean, there's so many things going on in the world. We could talk about a lot of things.
yeah. Look, I think there's going to be plenty of time for that, Heather. I'm kind of interested in your trip you're taking
All
this
right.
month. So if you want to say a little bit about that, and then I'll follow up with you with a couple other things.
Yeah, the world, I'm going to start with the world is super small, you guys.
Right.
Okay. Like, and you're going to see this as we talk through this story, how many times people's paths cross that you wouldn't expect. So, a couple years ago, Autism Up recruited me to do their housing analysis, and that was really exciting, but really scary because I don't have an analytical brain. Maybe I have a more person centered brain, and I knew we'd be collecting all this data and analyzing it. And I thought, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to work for me, but we get started and we went through First Place. They're in Arizona and they're leaders in this space. They have transition academies in Arizona and apartments set up, and so right away I was like, I love these people. They are so innovative, they're so open-minded. We work through the whole housing analysis and we got more responses than anybody in the entire country. So they keep saying, like, how did you get that many people involved? Like, this is not a quick click survey that you can finish in a couple minutes. This was the 3 hour commitment, and we got over 500 families to participate, which is really cool. But think about how many people need housing, right? Like, so I just kept thinking, like, I'm not going to shoot low. We got to shoot high. I didn't want legislators or policymakers to say, big deal. This is based on 50 people. This is based on 100 people. I wanted us to really have a substantial amount, and we did it. And now I'm getting flown out to Arizona in the middle of October for a global symposium. So it'll be a pretty big stage. They market it as 200 world changers in the room. And the cool thing is, we each have these different topics we're going to talk about. And they said at the end of the symposium, almost every single time, people in the room are connecting and starting nonprofits and starting initiatives and projects together because we're all in the same space. We're all like wanting to do the same kind of thing. So you meet up with somebody from Texas and they're doing something really cool, and somebody from Vermont is there, and then maybe somebody's from England or Ireland. There's people from all over the world coming together to make the world a better place for people who have a different path, who need different things to succeed. So I'm really excited to talk about the housing model. And here's the small world part. When I got that report and it was all done, a developer came to visit Autism Up and talk about the report. And his name is Dal, and he's with New Vision Development Group. And he he went on and on. Like, most of the people went on to different meetings, and I just stayed there. I was so entranced in what he was talking about. I think we sat there for 3 hours just because housing is such a big deal, but you have to have more than a house. I mean, Steve and I talk about this all the time. You need community. You need people to support you and wrap you up and uplift you, right? So he's all about it. And so I'm telling him about First Place, and he said, "Oh, I work with Machani Robotics." And I'm like, I don't know what that is. all this new technology and smart homes and stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool. He said, well, did you do the symposium last year? And I said, virtually. He said, the MC is Rhea, the humanoid the Machani group came up with. So it's just like, it's just funny that all these different people were already connected in a way, right? Like they already knew who First Place was. Maybe that's how they got the report, like that's the beautiful part of it. But as it's going on, and now I've been meeting with Dale, we're talking about different areas. Where could we do a community in Rochester? He comes to me and he says, I really want to introduce you to the Kelberman group and the Capilatis. And these are all people who've been on our podcast. I was just like, this is crazy. And Utica is one of the areas that they're looking to develop one of these 15-minute communities. And what are the odds, Steve? I mean, seriously, out of all the places, it's our two hometowns.
Right. Yeah. I actually had the privilege of talking to them yesterday and they want to follow up with us. So let's see where that door opens and closes and all that and going forward
Mhm.
and kind of excited. Like you said, housing is a major issue. I hear it every single week about the housing issues with families that are struggling, what's going to happen next. And
Right.
so I look forward to of all of that piece.
Hmm.
We I'm heading to in March to. They made me the chair of NCSA, which is the National Council for Severe Autism in New York, and they're sending me out to Washington D.C. again in March. I probably should have had you come with me because actually Dale told me yesterday I should go with you to Arizona. So
Yeah, I would have loved for
it,
you to do that.
yeah,
It's a big ask.
yeah.
Arizona's a little farther than Albany.
Yeah, my schedule can't do it. When you have a kid in the house that's been on a waiting list for 2 years, and that is the same exact day that you're going to be in Arizona, I have to take the 2 year wait list thing off the table and get this kid in there. So
Yeah,
that was
I
my
get it.
hiccup. But otherwise, I absolutely would have gone with you. So that's coming down the pike. We have our merchandise is on our website. I think is it on the website yet, Heather? I don't even know. I know it's on our
I
podcast.
Yeah, if you're on Facebook and you go to the featured posts, you can find it. We have a
Right.
local print shop that is printing some of the designs that we have. Eventually, that will be on the website. I'm not sure
Okay.
if it shifted over yet or not, but we would love for you guys to check it out. I mean, it's nice to have some cool merch, right? But also, some of the shirts and the styles and the patterns and designs are my kids helped with them. So I think, I'm a proud mom. I think they're kind of cool. I wear my Hopathetically shirt all the time.
I can't wait for that to happen. I don't know why I thought it was on the website already, but we'll have to work on
Maybe
that.
it is. Maybe it is. I don't
We'll
know.
have
Things move
to
fast.
we'll have to make sure that that happens too. Any other news on your end for updates or things coming up or
Yeah, still on the housing vein a little bit. We started something cool at my work where I'm working with another housing navigator. I took the class and she's been doing it a long time. She's a mama that has a son with really complex needs and a daughter with a little bit lower support needs, more medical things. So she comes at housing knowing what you have to do for somebody who needs staffing, who needs like the safeguards in place. And so I had helped people move out of institutions and I had helped people, maybe a dozen. And I thought, well, what should I say, Amy, when I'm talking about this class that me and you are offering to families? And she said, well, I've helped 150 people get into homes outside of their family home. And I was like, that's a really impressive number. I mean, I had no idea. That's like when we talk about foster care with you, I'm just like, okay, she's got this going on. So I'm just mentioning that not so people will join the class because it already started. We're going to do it a few times a year, but just to say sometimes you don't even know the people who are next to you. I've known her for years and I knew she did this, but I just didn't know this was like her livelihood. This is her passion. So that's my, little gem of the day. Just talk more to the people are doing the same kind of things as you and see what they can offer because I am very excited to do this with her. I know I'll learn things, but we're also going to help 12 to 15 families every time we do the class. And that's a big reach.
yeah, I wanted to mention that the second family listening tour is tonight in Long Island.
Oh, very cool.
And the OPWDD and the commissioner Willow Bear will be there with some of her staff. I believe there's 13 families, which is a little more than ours was,
Hmm.
going to that particular event tonight. And I guess they've already scheduled a third on Region 3 is going to be next. So I'm so glad they're listening, and we as families have to keep them on their toes. And so I hope that people reach out and try and get involved in some of that family listening to her, because you get real and you get genuine when it's down below and when she's in your area and you're not trying to go
Right.
to Albany and try and listen.
Because the really formal forums are really hard to engage with somebody because they give you your 3 minutes and you could say the best things in the whole world. And then they
No
just kind of
response.
stay there because they can't respond to you. And when the listening tour, that's why that really is a great format because you're sitting down and having conversations. And I think that's why you move the needle because I am sure when she's at like a family council meeting and people are yelling at her, when I'm speaking about Willow Bear, the OPWDD commissioner, she probably feels bad that they're upset. But it also has to kind of put you on the defensive. Like if everyone's yelling at you, even if you're a really good person and a strong leader, that's hard. That's hard not to take it personal and it's hard not to get burned out. So I think the listening to her just gives her a chance to really connect with people, not, angry people. They could be angry. I'm not saying they don't have issues, but they're not going to scream and yell in that setting. Oh, and that made me think I got to go to a civic genius town hall and it's another format, and I loved it. I'm trying to get Jillian Youngblood on the show. She's the director of Civic Genius, and so just so you guys know, it's a new kind of way to get people to engage in civic discussions. To talk to politicians in a balanced way. And what their organization does is they look at the district, the region, and they say, how many men are there? How many women? How many Democrats? How many Republicans? How many Spanish speaking people? And then they fill the room with those demographics. It's a lottery system. People who want to come and talk to the politician put their name in a hat, and then they start picking and they make sure that the people in the room are representative of the people in that district. And the cool thing is, you could be an extreme person with extreme views, but when you're sitting at the table with your neighbors and your community members, it just kind of shifts when you're face to face and you're sharing space with people. And the politician also has to walk right down that center line because everybody's in the room, not just the people who support him or her, everybody and all the people voting. So I thought that was a great idea. And it reminded me in some ways of that listening tour because it's just flipping the script, it's making it different. I think we all need those kind of opportunities.
Yeah, I think that's great. Any chance you can get to have civil discourse is so much
Hmm.
better than the other way. The world, like you mentioned earlier, is upside down right now, and I think it's going to take us to figure all that out. And I could have a conversation with somebody that might not have been voted against me. They won't even
Hmm.
know what party I'm a part of because I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I only care about who's going to help the kids that are in my home and the kids
Hmm.
that are out there in the disability community across the state and that part and try and keep the politics out of all of that. And I think it's best if more of us did that. I think we'd be so much farther ahead in so much of this
Hmm.
and
It used to be you could
not
disagree with
taken care
somebody
of.
and still be friends with them. We lost that somewhere along
Right.
the way. So when I think about where we're going with this platform, I get really excited. I mean, I don't know if people are tuning in and they're thinking, okay, this is cool. Their topics are great. But like we are putting a lot of thought into like who should be in front of you guys? Who should you hear from? Who would like spark you in some ways? Because there have been moments that both of us have been so beaten down by the things happening. I just had a phone call about the whole home care fiasco in the CDPAP world in New York State, and the woman was so kind because she said, I know how draining this has been and how hard everybody's been fighting, but we can't stop now because right now all the legislators, the governor, they're all running for reelection, right? Like, so this is like we we can't ever let our foot off the gas even when we're tired. But every now and then you hear from someone and you're like, okay, I have my energy back. Like that made me feel like I could do this. So I hope people listen to these shows and feel the same way because whenever I'm feeling down, I call Steve. I'm getting beat up right now. I really need you to talk me out of this. Like I have a CSC on Friday about Devin, and I think, do I go in the room guns blazing? Do I go in the room blasting them on Facebook, or do I go in the room and I try to build a bridge because they've been good to me? Up until now, I've been very pleased. So I think sometimes we have that like gut reaction of trying to be maybe not defensive, but we get offensive, like we want to make sure they believe us or hear us. And I've learned a lot from you just spending time with you and hearing how you problem solve. So this is my thank you. You think Scott, I think Scott all the time. I mean, I don't know. We couldn't pull this off without him, but you're you have this way about you, Steve. So I'm really glad that we're doing this together.
Thank you. I stay out of the weeds. It's not worth it. With
Yeah.
everything I do in my life. I just try to stay out of all that stuff. You know, I'm the old guy in the room here. I think I'm older
It
than
was
Scott.
just your
I know
birthday.
it. I know it. Scott caught me getting sung to. It's probably going to be on some tape somewhere, but that's a whole
Everybody was singing
other
you
story.
happy birthday.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who are happy, want to celebrate you.
Yeah. Look, at this stage, I don't have time to not try and do everything we can to inspire other families on here, to try and empower them. Somebody's got to take the mantle from me someday, and you someday also,
Hmm.
and to be able to continue to find ways to help our individual homes and lives, and would only help our children, because we've said it before, Heather, the Calvary's not coming for us. We have to be the Calvary. And
Hmm.
the more we get done, the more that we're out there, the more that we can make things happen and move the needle. And we have a whole bunch of stuff coming. That the stories coming on some of the stuff that we're doing with the Ability Bus and the barn. And on that, just quickly on that barn thing, so I don't forget, the a guy who custom makes prefab buildings called
Hmm.
me yesterday. He's out of Texas and says, I have designed something for you that will help put with AI and some other things in a tiny home, in a prefab building that I have. And along with that, we can do your barn also. So I have
Wow.
a pending meeting with him, and I'd love to get him on the podcast to see what his thoughts are,
Uh-huh.
with because the different avenues that we all come in at on a spectrum of
Uh-huh.
autism and disabilities, because he would have to, make sure that he accommodated everybody on the spectrum, and not
Hmm.
just maybe the ones that are higher, functioning, and not, and then leave the profound autism on the side. It's got to be everybody. So I
Hmm.
hope to have him on down the road and introduce you to him, and then we can question him about coming up with some
Hmm.
solutions to help this and all the people who listen to us.
Yeah. Isn't that neat too? You put it out there with their worthdoing.org, right? That new nonprofit that you're part of, and people respond. They read it and they say, you know what? I don't have to wait for the government to cut the check.
Right.
I can do that. That's in my wheelhouse, or that's how I can give back. And I think that's what we have to go back to, being good neighbors, being, helping our communities. And when I get back from Arizona, I feel like they're going to have a whole bunch of new neighbors. They might live, pretty far away from me, but new people of our community. So that's the great part. We're expanding all the time. The more often that you guys like a post or like our episode when we drop it, it really does help. It makes our everything go up. All our numbers change and then people can find us easier. So if you don't want to buy a shirt, that's cool. That's fine. If you don't, you don't have to give us dollars towards this project that we're in, this initiative. But if you could share our episodes and let people know about us, that's where my heart is. I think that's where we connect with people, and then they see why we're doing what we're doing.
In closing, I wanted to mention one last thing. I was in earlier in the week with Simca on his advocate, podcast,
Uh-huh.
and we actually are doing another one tomorrow morning,
Oh,
and a second
cool.
one. And then I talked to Scott earlier. We're hoping to. I have a couple dads that I want to bring on, and probably do it on a separate day,
Uh-huh.
and try and do some stuff. We talked before about maybe doing some stuff in specific lanes, and I want to do a couple things in the specific dad lane,
Hmm.
with a one-on-one, maybe with a dad. And I've got a couple in mind who have already said they would be interested in do, and they have some. Both of them are parents, and of both of them have custody of their children, both with autism, and some topics that I think it would be help with the dad part of it, their perspective, and actually to get more dads involved to help all you guys. The women shouldn't have to carry all the load, and the more guys that we can get involved, and that'll be one apparatus. We're going to try and do that.
We're all really busy. We're moving really quickly, doing all these different things. And so I I appreciate everybody who takes this time to tune in and listen to us. And I'm excited about what's to come. So until next time.
Continue the conversation by joining our Facebook group. If you're a fan of the show, please join our supporters club. Subscribe on YouTube, rate and review on your favorite listening app, but most of all, share it with your friends. Just one more click or comment can make a huge difference and help us to continue finding common ground.